This week, we're joined by Czarina Salido to talk to us all about Girls Taking Up Space, a charity which sends Native American girls to space camp at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama.
A truly inspirational charity which is doing so much great work right now at a time when we really need positive stories.
Absolutely. Plus, we'll get you up to date with all that's happening in the world of spaceflight.
Please do get in touch if you have any comments about what we're talking about. And if you really want to leave us a review on Facebook or on your favorite podcast platform, that would be absolutely magnificent. But right now, please enjoy episode 37 of the Space and Things podcast.
Oh my God! Unbelievable, but it is great to touch.
You're listening to Space and Things with Dave Giles and Emily Carney.
I'm Emily Carney.
And I'm Dave Giles. Welcome back, Emily. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I had the second Pfizer shot last week, and I was a little knocked out for a couple days, but I'm glad to report I'm doing much better now, and I'm a few days from being fully vaccinated, so that is awesome. That's
amazing.
I know, I'm very happy. It's like the light at the end of the tunnel is almost there, and it's not Darth Vader with like a lightsaber this time, hopefully, so nearly there.
I love that. So today, as this podcast is released on Thursday, you're doing a talk today, right?
Yes, I am. I'm doing an online talk with the L5 Society in Huntsville. It's a Zoom talk, obviously, but it's going to be about the life and career of Gerard K. O'Neill. Bing! And I'm still putting together my slides from it, but it's really just going to discuss a little bit about his life and career, and plus the new movie that we obviously covered a couple weeks back, the High Frontier movie, which was excellent. So I'm going to talk a little bit about him, and I hope I don't do too bad of a job. I'm a little nervous only because if it's the L5 Society, those might be some real hardcore O'Neillians. So they probably know their stuff very good. So I hope I don't make any mistakes. We'll just put it that way.
I'm not sure we really covered what the L5 Society was a few weeks back. Briefly, what is the L5 Society? Because I think some people might find that interesting.
Well, the L5 Society was established, I believe, in 1975 by two people, Carolyn Meinl and Keith Henson. It was a society based on sort of enterprising the work of Gerard K. O'Neill, who was just coming out with ideas for space settlement. The L5 Society went on for a number of years. They had a great magazine called the L5 News that had a really awesome art in it. Phil Chapman, rest in peace, was the president of it for a while after he was an astronaut. It was eventually consolidated with the NSI, which was the National Space Institute, which was Wernher von Braun's, his group. And it became the NSS in 1987. So now it's part of the modern day National Space Society, which my blog is on there. Yeah. So it's neat to be a part of that heritage. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah. And this is a good example of the grassroots communities that sprung out of that movement for that Gerard K. O'Neill started, which we did talk about a few weeks ago. But it's great to see that this one is still going so strong.
Oh, yeah.
So this week, we've got to start by getting a little bit serious. Well, actually, quite a lot serious. So you may remember we did a panel with Mike Mullane and Christina Korp about supporting women in the space industry. And this is definitely something we've spoken about other times as well.
This week, it emerged on Twitter that a well-known male science communicator who has worked with many prominent STEM organizations, including the Space Foundation and Explore Mars, allegedly sexually harassed a woman spaceflight journalist via direct messages. I am not naming the alleged perpetrator because I don't wish to give him any more attention, and his name has been widely bandied about on social media regarding this incident.
This also follows a few weeks back after another prominent and successful female space journalist was ganged up on by a group of what can only be described as jealous men, and they attempted to undermine her career and even made claims that she hadn't worked on projects which she clearly had. In fact, dormant Twitter accounts for old documentaries had to be reopened just to tweet their support for the journalist and confirm that she did in fact work on them.
We have had enough.
This has to stop. So this weekend, after this, we have seen a number of women in space industries and STEM share similar stories, some of whom have now left the space industry as a result. And this includes Emily, who wrote an incredibly powerful blog telling her story and how it has impacted her life since. The old boys club has to end, and younger men who strive to exist within this world need to know that this is not an option available to them.
We spoke to both Explore Mars and the Space Foundation to find out what they intended on doing about this man who they have employed. Explore Mars accepted his preferred resignation and released a statement saying they do not tolerate harassment of any kind.
We have also been told that he will no longer be working for the Space Foundation, although their public statement was more vague than this. They didn't name him and instead posted the following. Every person deserves respect. Our success as an organization depends on people striving to be their best, professionally and personally. We demand high standards of ourselves and one another, and when those standards are not met, we act by reviewing, addressing, and learning so that Space Foundation can continue to be the preeminent advocate for the global space community. Now, in my mind, that's quite a weak public message with regards to this. I think it's time that both individuals and corporations alike take firm stands and call out this behavior properly. Each and every man, including myself in this, needs to start thinking about his actions and changing them accordingly. It's not like this is a new conversation that we're only just learning about. It's not like this conversation only started because of Harvey Weinstein. This has been going on for too long, and we're all guilty of it in some form of bad behavior or the other, and we have to stop it now.
Yeah, this week has been sort of a emotional roller coaster for not just me, but for I think everybody in the community.
Even if you're not a victim, even if you're a man who isn't doing these things now, it's not easy to read this stuff, and it's not nice knowing that it's happening, but we need to know it's happening, and it's so brave of these women to come and speak their truths to us and let us know that it's happening and who's doing it so that we can make these changes. I've seen some posts about the fact that people think that those who have been accused are being bullied, which is just nonsense, because the guy even admitted that he did it. The screenshots, and then he admitted he did it. It's not being bullied to then ask their employer, "What are you doing about this?" That's not bullying.
Yeah,
that's what needs to happen now.
I've always felt, and I'm sure people will have a wide variety of opinions about what I'm going to say. I've always felt that sexual harassment is a form of bullying. I don't even think it's about sex, to be honest. I never have in my whole life. It's usually about, okay, I have this power. I'm in a senior position over you. Now I'm going to do this to you, and you're not going to say anything about it. And I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and you're just going to be in that lower position, and I'm just going to keep doing this. That's what it's about to me. It's about power. It's about holding something over somebody else's head. So, when people say, oh, that's bullying, I'm sorry. It's the other way around. The person getting harassed is being bullied. That, to me, is what sexual harassment or, in worst cases, assault is about. It's about, okay, I have this thing to hang over your head and blackmail you with now, and, that's how it is, and I'm real, oh, God. I'm real sick and tired of hearing, we must do better. I'm real sick and tired of that. I know people who say that have good intentions, and I'm not trying to attack them or anything like that. But I'm real sick and tired of hearing that, because the people who are doing the harassing need to do better. Because I see, and we're about, this is really a heavy intro to the next story we're about to do. There's a ton of wonderful, positive things going on in the space community right now. You got people supporting all sorts of incredible causes that are helping out students and of all ages. You got, civilian astronauts going to space, which is, something we wouldn't have imagined, even a decade ago. There's a lot of great things that are going on. We're coming out of kind of a difficult period in the world right now, world history. There's a lot of good stuff, and a lot of people in the space community are doing incredible things. You got to give credit where it's due. And I'm sick of hearing, oh, we all have to collectively do better. We are doing great. I think we're doing great as a community. It's just these few people who are bullies, in my opinion, who are screwing up. They need to do better. I'm so sick of hearing that, we all need to band together and do better. That to me is an excuse. I'm sorry. I feel like if you're out there listening to this and you're guilty of this kind of stuff, snap out of it. Get help. Admit it to yourself and try to get help for it. Do better. And that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, absolutely nailed it. And that's why I want to see firmer reactions from the corporations as well, who hire people who make these mistakes. And when it comes out about it, it's why I sent the messages to Explore Mars and the Space Foundation, was hoping for strong messages that will let other men know you don't do this. You don't do this. This isn't a thing we want in our industry or in any industry. This is done. This has got to be done. This is bigger than just the space world as well. This is everything. It's got to be done. It's about men. We've got to start looking at our own behavior and saying, no, I need to stop this. I need to stop even if you think it's a casual joke that means no harm, it probably does. You know it. I mean, I think that's the worst thing about this. Even before this guy said what he said, this might be a little bit inappropriate. He knew what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing.
He knew.
And we do know what we're doing. We know it's wrong, so we've got to stop it. This is a heavy opening to this podcast, but we're going to follow it up with what we think is a very, very positive story.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Last week, Dave mentioned that we held a charity event last Tuesday in the Space Hipsters Facebook group, which raised nearly $6,000 for a charity called Girls Taking Up Space, which sends Native American girls to space camp in Huntsville in an effort to try and encourage more girls into careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
And so this week, we are joined by the founder, Czarina Salido, to talk more about what they do and why it's so important.
When you were a little girl growing up in Akron, Ohio, did you say, gee, I'd like to be an astronaut someday?
No, I really didn't think about it until about 4 years ago when NASA announced that they were looking for astronauts who would be engineers and scientists on the space shuttle. And it was accidental that I heard about it, and I just took a chance and applied.
So welcome, Czarina. Thank you so much for joining us on Space and Things. It's a real pleasure to have you on. So please do just give us an introduction about taking up space. How did it start, and what were the aims?
Hi, thank you for having me. And congratulations. I looked at, it's been 8 months now since you started the podcast.
Has it been that long? Wow.
I think it's been. So you guys are on your third quarter. So congratulations, guys. It's almost been a year.
Thank you.
And we're still going and we're doing good.
Haven't missed a week.
Thank you.
Yes. So Taking Up Space is a outreach program. And it started from the nonprofit that I started, which is called Time and Cosmology. And a couple years after we started that, we were looking for an outreach program. And I live in Tucson. Oh, and I have to say, being in Tucson, I live on ancestral land that belongs to the Tohono O'odham and the Basque Yaqui. And I just want to thank our ancestors for having my house here on their land. I always forget about the ancestral recognition. But yes, so being here from Tucson and being on basically Native American land, we just sort of started thinking like, what can we do? How can we make an impact? And it just sort of all happened. We went down to, there's a beautiful mission here called San Javier. And we went down there and they told us, down the street is an educational area, an educational clubhouse and Basque Yaqui education. And so we went down there and I talked to the clubhouse director and he's like, sure, go ahead. So, and what I was looking for was to start a program for girls, Native American girls, to learn STEM. And we started having a girls' day at the clubhouse once a week.
Awesome. So that's how it all began.
And how long ago was that?
It's we're going on 5 years this year.
Oh wow! Congratulations. And at what point did you decide that you wanted it to be bigger than it is, and more people to know about it, and that you had bigger plans than just that weekly meeting?
Well, it started actually, the weekly meeting was intended to go for the girls to go to space camp.
Right.
And it wasn't necessarily that way. When I got to the Basque Yaqui tribe, I started, first off, it was hard to get girls to come in. So we had, we started off with maybe 2 girls coming in, and this is just an after school clubhouse. with computers, and all the girls would normally do is just come in and, play on their computer. So after a couple of weeks of going, there started to be more girls, and more girls started to show up. And our whole intention in the beginning was to start a program to get them to space camp. So when I started working with them, I realized that they didn't have very much of a science background at all. Hypothesis was not a word in their lexicon. So no experiment or anything. So it turned out from being something small to getting more girls at the club, and then it becoming bigger when I realized how much it cost to do this program. It's very expensive to go to Huntsville. It's one of the most expensive airports to land in. And also space camp is about $1,000. So it started becoming bigger. And when I saw the need for funding, that's when we started kind of going grassroots. And I applied for so many grants and I tried to get sponsorship, but I just couldn't get hold of any. But word of mouth, when we talked to people like Emily and like Lois about it, they're like, this is so cool. And they wanted to help. So I was able to get people excited about it, but not corporations or anything. So that it sort of started kind of trickling and getting a little bit bigger and bigger.
Right. What age range are the students and are the girls?
The students are 9, 10, and 11 and 12. So it's that age right before they go into junior high. As many of you have probably heard, girls going into junior high lose their interest in STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So originally we started the program since we knew that the girls lose interest in junior high. We thought, let's get the junior high girls to come in and keep their interest. But that wasn't the case because by that time, the girls were too uninterested. And so we had to move the age group a little bit younger so that way we can get them right before they hit that age so that we can get them excited about science and math and technology and engineering. And that way, when they hit that crucial junior high stage, they will already have the confidence to keep going and hopefully the love of it and seeing how science and math and technology, it's everywhere. It's everything. It's, it's all over if we just look at it. So
yeah.
Absolutely.
And how many girls so far have you sent to space camp?
So we've had 5 girls go so far.
Amazing.
And so this year we're doing 7 and 5. The most we've sent is 3 or 4. I can't even remember. So we're doubling it this year.
Amazing.
And
wow.
Yes. And it's been small because of the ages, because of the money, and finding kids at first to have parents' trust for someone that they don't know, taking their little 9-year-olds across the country to Alabama, which isn't known necessarily for the best, should we say it?
Open-mindedness, perhaps.
Yeah.
Social values.
Diversity. Yeah.
So it took a lot to get people to trust. And now it's just growing. And so now that trust is kind of already embedded into the program since we've done so far. So we haven't lost a kid yet.
That's awesome.
And I'm guessing you get the testimony, right, back from the kids who then talk to their friends, and that becomes a bit of a word of mouth. And then you probably have more people applying for those spaces now, right?
A few. We've had a little bit more interest, but still in the Native American community, you have some communities that are a bit more closed off and some that are a bit open. And we opened it up to the US and we had a lot of kids coming in, but in Tucson, there was actually few sign up. And there's still not that much of there's still this sort of sense of outsider coming in. So there's still work to do to gain more trust in the tribes, especially with the Pasco Yaqui, which are here. Next spring, I'm going to work with the Tohono O'odham, which is a different tribe, different culture, different customs, and we'll see how that goes. But it's not as easy as you would think to get girls to accept, a scholarship and to fly across country. They're just very young, and it's hard to gain that trust. I have to say, it's something that you have to work for when you're working in this type of community, especially, I feel.
I just wanted to ask because obviously, and I'm not trying to plug my own group too much, but obviously we had the fundraiser last week in Space Hipsters where we We had some awesome prizes and stuff. And as a collective, we raised some money for girls taking up space. I don't like to toot our own horn too much, but we love the cause and we think it's awesome. And we're really honored to help with the cause. But I do want to ask, because some people might not be aware, these kids really have to work hard to actually go to space camp. It's not like we're just like, yeah, let's go on a vacation or something. Like, it's not, I don't want people to think that. What do they have to do to get to space camp? I know they have to work towards that goal. What's that like?
They have to, and the reason mostly why it started to work through that goal is because when I went to space camp as an adult, and that's part of the story is why Taking Up Space started. Was I went and I was having not that great of a time in life, and I got there and it was like, whoa, happy place. It was there was nerds and science and tech. And not only that, but you got to do a lot of team building exercises. So I gained a lot of confidence coming out from the program, just being there for a week. So, but I didn't know a lot of NASA stuff. I didn't know all the terms like auxiliary and, rocket fuel and the boosters. And I had no idea, STS, any of that. And I realized most people did in my group, and they had a way better understanding. And if I would have came into space camp, even as an adult, with more understanding of space and the terms, I would have gotten more out of it. So when I figured that out for myself, we thought I need to give these girls background so that way when they get there, they can take advantage of it and not be at a disadvantage. So for the past year, the girls for the first 16 weeks, they were taught coding. And that came out because of COVID. There was a young 16-year-old girl who wanted to start a nonprofit. She heard about our work and she contacted me and she said, will you help me do this curriculum and be mentor for the girls? So we did that all during COVID. And that's when we got all our girls from across the country. Only one from Arizona, and she is Navajo Dine. And once again, not Pasco Yaqui. And they've been training now. So they passed their coding, and their coding, the way they ended that was we had 83 girls. At the end, about 8 stayed, and they did a hackathon. It was a 24-hour hackathon, and the girls were up until 10 at night. They were up at 6 a.m. When I got there, they were already working. And these girls were just working hard for their goal. And one of the girls was actually featured on the hackathon. So these are the ones that ended up going to pick to go to space camp. So they've already showed their commitment and they've already shown their drive. So now that I've been working with them from the coding program with just doing aerospace, is mostly STEM and aerospace. We've done a 3-pronged program, and we start with STEM. We have a speaker come in, usually because I don't know very much about STEM, and there's people who know a lot more than me. And there are female speakers who are also Native ancestry, like, Penny from Paycom. She at NASA, she talked to the girls. Brielle Thorson is a mathematic graduate student, an engineer, and also she is Native American, and she talked to the girls about engineering and the laws of motion with Newton and forces of normal force and gravity. So each week we had half an hour of STEM, and then we switched over to a dance break to get the energy out and also to gain confidence, because dancing can be a little bit, you can feel a little bit self-confident.
Scary.
So the dance break, is to kind of get them more confident about themselves and their bodies. And then we do our Native American stuff. And that has to do with, we either do stories, we have guest speakers come in and do a story time, some Native American creation stories. We do drawings. One of the girls has their father or grandfather is an artist, and he drew this really cool rock art animal posters, and the girls fold them in. And so we incorporate STEM, some body positive, some confident building, team cooperation with the girls, and then the Native American history for them. so that's so it's
awesome.
a long program. They worked really, really hard. Oh, and then at the end, they got to do a presentation, and they showed what they liked out of the whole course, what they've learned, who their favorite speaker was, and then they had to do an experiment. We are working on a free fall experiment to be either sent on the Vomit Comets or to be sent up to the ISS. And we're working, partnering with Possum Group. I don't know if you've heard.
Yeah, I've heard of them. Project Possum.
Yes, they sent in one of their first civil astronauts up that was trained through them. And so we're working on a experiment with them to go up there, either with, ISS or Vomit Comet. And hopefully some of the girls will be old enough and tall enough to go and actually do the experiments with the Possum Group. And that's how we ended it. This is Nicole Stott came in and judged the presentations, and she picked the top 3 experiments. So next semester, that's what we're all doing. We're focusing and refocusing on our experiment to go up, hopefully, to the ISS or on the Comet.
Just amazing.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
That is awesome. That's really what this is all about, It really is.
Yeah, I mean, those students must be so inspired by this. Having Nicole Stott come in at the end and an astronaut who's actually been to space. I mean, that must be amazing. If I was 9, 10, 11, that would have meant a huge amount to me. And that is something I want to go back to, because as Emily talked about this, we had these great prizes for at this event that Space Hips has put on. Does it land with the kids that Senator Jack Schmidt, who walked on the moon, has donated prizes to help them go to space camp? Are they aware of how the magnitude of that? That's so huge.
I'm getting teared up thinking about this.
I don't think they're aware of the magnitude. I don't think they can actually. I mean, these girls, some of the girls haven't been on a plane before. They haven't left reservation. So I think once they get to space camp and start experiencing the magnitude of it, because even the campus is huge, plus to have these astronauts and senators, I don't think they can quite grasp it yet. And I'm hoping after this experience at space camp, they're going to start kind of getting it a little bit more, because they freaked out when they saw themselves on a news story the other day, and I showed it to them. They're just like, so it's not yet. I think they're too young and not experienced enough to see it. But once they get to space camp and see just how enormous the space world is, and just to see it, I think that's going to be the time when it's going to start hitting them. And let me see. Okay, so Emily, you didn't want to toot your own horn, but Space Hipsters, our last fundraiser, we made close to $6,000. It was $5,700, and that is mind blowing. That's the most that we've gotten in any donation. I think the biggest one before that was $3,000. This was $5,000, $5,700 that we've got, and that's all thanks to community. I guess with this year, it's been pretty tough for us, and we haven't received any funding from tribes or bank, anything. So this has just been grassroots. So thank you to you guys, because we wouldn't be able to send the 7 girls, and that would have been so disappointing.
No problem.
To only have to sit half or 2, or I mean, it would have been okay, but this is big. This is special. 7 girls who've never met each other, training for a year, going to space camp for the first time, meeting each other and just seeing the enormity of it. And I could tell them about everyone who's donated. Like I could point out, this guy on the moon who became a senator gave money so you could be here. It's going to have to take that for them to like me, blow my mind. My mind is blown every day. Being here today with you guys, I'm just like, I love it. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah. Here's, I'll turn it back over to Dave if he has any other questions. But the thing with, oh God, now I'm going to start crying. I didn't, as a kid, I loved space flight, but I came from kind of a lower middle class family. I didn't have the money to go to space camp or to do something like that. And as an adult, having been to Huntsville only recently in the last 6 months, really, I was just like, oh my God, this place is like paradise. It's like amazing. And I didn't have that experience as a kid, but if I could give it to another kid even in a small way, just by getting the word out, like, hey, we're doing this for girls taking up space and stuff like that. That to me is like even better than if I had gone as a kid, because I'm like, okay, give it to somebody else so they can love that experience. So yeah, that means a lot to me.
Yeah, likewise. I also grew up, I didn't even know Space Camp existed until I was an adult, and I got to do a NASA social. And that's when I found out about it. So I also grew up poor, and Grandpa and I used to go out and look at the stars, and it just sort of, growing up in Tucson and having these big skies, you just see so many stars that you just get inspired. And if you're low income, there are school programs you can go to. And so I went to a couple school programs, and I remember them, and I remember the speakers, and I remember, being picked to go up on stage when I was like 6, So they had an impact on me, but I messed up, and I got into, high school, drugs, alcohol, partying, didn't do well in college. It took 10 years to get my philosophy and physics degree. And I want to save girls from the path that I went. I saw the good stuff, like the programs, science, math, and having math in my background as a little kid growing up and being strong at that made me go back to school and go into physics. Had I not had that, I could have gone into physics, when I was older, and it still stayed. So I don't want these girls to follow my path. I want them to avoid all of the bad things that I did and all the horror. And Emily, to have the courage and the confidence to stand up to men, because these STEM world is still, it's still a men-oriented world. Yeah. And these girls are brown, they're gorgeous, they're smart. And so to give them this confidence to say, like, back off, or no, or I'm taking up space and I'm going to be in this class. I don't care if I'm the only brown one or the only female in here. Exactly. I'm going to stay in here and be here and have confidence in myself, because I know even if I fail, I'm here and I tried. So it takes thank you, Emily. Thank you for paving the way for these girls too.
Gosh, thank you. I'm getting emotional as hell now. Thank you. Whoa, God, no. Okay. I think it's an enormous cause. And like you said, I think it's very positive for young women to do something like this, especially as you said, the STEM community, unfortunately, we've seen that it is still kind of male dominated, not to gang up on Dave or anything like that, but we've seen that, there's still inequities, and to have, a young woman sort of say, okay, I'm here to do something in math or science or STEM or what have you, that's still sort of a big, like, power statement, not even nowadays. So I just think it's an incredible cause. I love it.
I just say even men like Dave who are here supporting and are allies for women.
Or allies, that's
more important, or just as important, because, I am female and I run this program and we help females. I could see a lot of men thinking, like, what about the boys? So for me to have a male allies helping us shows that these are the guys that we want. These are our allies. Like, we need the strong men standing up for us until we can get that equity, until we could get that balance. And so, Dave, you are awesome, and we need men like you to support us, just Absolutely. To have our back, just to be there for us and be like, you know what, I'm going to call up Dave and see what he thinks about this, see if this is me or so. Thank you. Thank you to all the men who support us.
But it is different for us. It's just easier. And what I mean by that is, since I was born, I've been bombarded by images. For example, the Apollo astronauts, or the majority of astronauts in general, are men. It's always been there, and we can't go back and change that. That's what it's like. If we're talking about the Apollo program, it's all men. And as a result, I've never had to worry about whether I belong in space or science or flying. It's just always been there for me as an option if I wanted to pursue it. And I think that's what's so important about this. And we have to acknowledge that as men, that we may not necessarily have thought about that at the time, may not have been in this something we actually thought, oh, there's a man, I can do this. But it's subliminal messaging. And I think that's what's so great about this program, is that those 7 girls going, it's not just about them coming back and realizing, okay, this is for me, I belong here. They come back and they tell their friends or their families, hey, I did this and I belong here, and I took up that space and I owned it and it was mine. And that is just as powerful or more powerful than the experience for them. And that's why this is so good. So I do have one other question. If people want to find out more, where can they find out about Girls Taking Up Space? And do you keep updates of what's going on? And where can we find out about how the girls are progressing?
You can get more information at taking-up-space.org. We try to update it. It's always a challenge, but on Facebook and on Twitter, try to keep that updated so people can go ahead and log in. It's Taking Up Space at taking_up_space on Twitter, and Girls Taking Up Space on Facebook. And so we try to keep it updated, and we're working on keeping the website a little bit more updated. There's a lot going on. On Saturday, we are going to a crafts fair, and there's going to be a bunch of Native Americans doing beading and shell work, and there's going to be fry bread, and we're going to be doing STEM experiments. So there's lots going on that we're doing just to keep word out, and so people know that we're here, like you said, to spread the word and get other people inspired, like you did when you were a kid and watching those astronauts fly up there.
Absolutely. Well, it's good to see that, we've talked about this a few times. The Artemis program is 50-50 gender split of the astronauts, and it's so important. It's so important, and it must be great for the girls who go to space camp, be it for your program or other girls, or girls who are just interested in space, to have those role models, to have someone like Nicole Stott as well, who's so good with her outreach herself. Those people to look up to, and heroes and their own heroes, and to be able to connect with them on social media, for example, all those avenues that now exist, and we've got to make sure that it happens and that these connections are made, and that the young girls are aware this is an option for me if I want to do that, and that's what this is all about. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much
for
this
sharing
is so much fun.
This story with us, and giving us more information about how it started and why. It's absolutely fascinating, and we wish you all the best with it. And you've got lifelong supporters in Emily and I, that's for sure.
Yes, yeah, and we'll definitely keep our listeners as well updated as to what you guys are doing and things like that, because we just love what you're doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you all, and thank you for Space Hipsters and for having me on here at Space and Things. I wish you all too the best of success on this podcast. This is awesome. You two together, I was like, yeah, this is a good power team. I love it. So thank you for having me on. I'm very excited and blessed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Affirmative.
That was definitely an e-ticket.
Roger that, Sally.
I absolutely loved that, Emily. What a great interview that was.
I loved it. It was incredible. I love all the things that they did over lockdown. I think a lot of us over lockdown, including myself, have just felt like, man, I do not feel motivated, to do much. And emotionally, it's been hard for, I think, everybody. I can't speak for others, but I think we've all had our moments of, man, this sucks, And to hear, Czarina talk about, we've been meeting up online and we've been doing coding and we've been doing this hackathon and all this really cool stuff that they've been sort of doing the last year or so. It's just really, it's inspiring as heck, man. It's very motivating, and I'm so glad that 7 girls are going. This is going to be awesome. That's just fantastic. This story just makes me smile, and it's definitely what we need to hear this week.
You know what, Czarina, though, she's just so lovely. After we finished, we had such a long chat with her. She was, she's so genuine, and she's genuinely interested in us and what we do, and she's just one of those good people in the world, isn't she, that we need more of?
Yes. Yeah, we need more people like Czarina. We definitely do. She's a very authentic person. She genuinely cares about what she's doing and other people, and and it just radiates. So she's awesome. I love her to death. She's a friend. I'm a little biased, but I just love her to death. I think she's incredible. So, and I'm really glad we could we could help them out. That's just, woof. I'm still buzzing from that event. It was about a week ago, but I'm still like buzzing about it. It was awesome.
Yeah, and I did win the quiz.
Yeah, he did. He did win the quiz. You know what's funny? And I'm getting very off topic, so if you have to cut this part out of the show, I completely understand.
I think we got time.
My husband watches a lot of British quiz shows, like I think Countdown and stuff like
Nice.
that. He's obsessed with shows like that. I was like, man, British people love quizzes, man. Dave won the quiz last week, and Steve was like watching Countdown, and it hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm just surrounded by British or quasi Great British people from Great Britain. Yeah, Steve's part Scottish, so different area, but still.
We do love a quiz.
I was about to say, you people, that sounds so awful.
Yeah, I know us people, we do.
Y'all love quizzes because Steve is obsessed with quizzes. And I was like, people with that heritage just love a damn quiz, man. And they're good at it too. So
the pub quiz is a staple in the weekly calendar. So most public houses or bars have a weekly pub quiz. It's a really common thing. And the pubs know you put one on, people turn up. It's a big deal. It's
funny. Okay, I'm going to say this and then we can move on because I'm way off topic. Steve and I went on our honeymoon to London, and I swear to God, he was at the pub quiz like that those 2 weeks. And I'm like, what the frick is he doing? He's like, dude, they're doing quizzes down here. And I was like, yeah, people from the UK are with that heritage and their quizzes. It's a thing. It is a thing. It runs deep because I was like, what the hell is he doing? I'm like in the hotel room, like chilling. He's like, I was doing a quiz downstairs because they had a pub downstairs. So I was like, oh my God. So I'll drop it now. I'm so sorry. I went way off topic.
It's amazing. I love it. I absolutely love it. Can't wait to meet Steve. Anyway, getting back on topic, for those who do want to find out more about Girls Taking Up Space and Czarina's project, we will post all the links you mentioned in our show notes. Also, they've just announced some new t-shirts and merchandise, so we'll post a link for that if you want to get involved. Also, there will be a link to Emily's article, which we mentioned earlier, which I'm going to say again, is a really powerful read. And Emily sent me a message saying that she was inspired and she went, oh, screw it, I'm going to write it down. And within 2 hours, that was posted. I can't believe you did that. It was incredible. So I'm bringing it back round to what we talked about earlier because I think it's important that people read that article. And thank you so much for sharing it, Emily.
No problem. Yeah, it was time for it to come out.
Should we get on with the news and sport then?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
You know, I think it's a wonderful time for human spaceflight because I think we've finally recognized that it's not worth going unless we go together, that it's important to not turn away any innovative idea, that everyone has a role and everyone has a place at the table as we move forward. If we're going to go for all humanity and to support humanity's love for exploration, then we have to do it with all humanity. And I think we're seeing that as our plans unfold for going back to the moon, seeing the first woman walk on the moon in 2024, and just recognizing that we have to go together if we're going to go and we're going to do it right.
And so, on to this week's spaceflight news. There have been 2 launches. Last Thursday, the 6th of May, a Long March 2C/E rocket launched from China, releasing a couple of different satellites, including a ComSat named Apocalypse 12, which is part of the Apocalypse Constellation Network.
What the hell?
And I think that this leads us into another Chinese story from the last week, which was certainly reported as if it could have been an apocalypse.
In the early hours of Sunday morning, the core stage of a Long March 5B booster, which launched the new Chinese space station into orbit last week, re-entered into the atmosphere over the Arabian Peninsula. The U.S. Space Command reported that it was unknown if the debris impacted land or water, but some space analysts have suggested it fell into the Indian Ocean north of the Maldives. This story seemed to take over the entire internet last week. It was everywhere. And I suppose it's a good thing to get the world talking about responsible spaceflight.
Yeah. I was getting phone calls from people that had never called me about space stuff before. What do you think about this Chinese satellite? Is it going to land on us? I was like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Yeah, I was making bets with people because people were like, is it going to fall on land? Is it going to fall on land? And I was like, I guarantee it'll probably land in water because most of the earth is water. And at one point, it looked like, I'm not making this up, y'all. At one point, it looked like it was going to come over Florida and possibly impact. And I was like, oh my God, of course it's going to come over my where I live. And I was actually kind of like, well, I'll see it. I'll get a light show. That'll be kind of cool, right? It, you know, maybe I can call like CNN at like 2 a.m. and be like, I see it, you know? I'll be famous or something, but it didn't happen, unfortunately.
As much as I do think, as you said, I think it is nice that the world gets talking about responsible space flight, and certainly China need to up their game on that a little bit. The hysteria about this was blown up a little bit in my mind.
Yeah, I thought so.
Jonathan McDowell on Twitter, who's kind of the expert on these kind of things. His Twitter profile was amazing. Awesome. He was asked to do interviews for every single news station in the world, I think, and his both his commentary of what was happening and also how many interviews he was having to do was really quite something. His Twitter profile was a delight last week. But yeah, what a crazy story. But everyone's safe. It's a shame it obviously such a big thing has ended up in the water and probably hurt some wildlife there, but alas, that's the way it seems to be for now. But hopefully that will get sorted. So
exactly.
The other launch was, you guessed it, a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket from Cape Canaveral carrying some more Starlink satellites. Seems like every week that is one of the launches. However, this is the first time that the first stage of that rocket has been reused and safely landed 10 times, which is quite the milestone. And actually, I'm beginning to wonder how many of these flights can these things actually do safely? I'm not sure if that number's been put out. Like, what is the lifespan of these first stages? If anyone knows, please do let me know, because I did a little Google on this.
I'd like to know too.
It didn't reveal anything that could answer that question.
I actually watched that one from it was at like 2:49 I think a.m. Where I was at.
Oh, nice.
And it was clear, so I was like, well, and I couldn't sleep, so I was like, I might as well just watch the launch. So I went outside and watched it. It wasn't as beautiful as the Crew 2 launch, only because we didn't have the sunrise kind of hitting it. But it was still pretty awesome because I'm just chilling, and all of a sudden I see like this flaming orange, arrow, and I was like, "Oh, that's it."
There it is.
So that was kind of cool. It's nice to be able to see that stuff. It was kind of neat.
Yeah, I'm very jealous of that.
It was neat. I'm not gonna brag too much. No, Dave's like, please shut up. All right. In other news, the Osiris-Rex probe has said goodbye to the asteroid Bennu and is bringing its sample back to Earth. You may remember us being very excited about this back in episode 8, all those months ago, where we recorded just after watching the probe high-five the asteroid to take its sample. If all goes well, the probe will rendezvous with Earth in September 2023 and deploy the sample capsule, which should land in the Utah desert. But first, it has to travel another 1.4 billion miles. That is so freaking cool.
Isn't it? 1.4 billion miles, and then they're going to put it in the Utah desert. Such pinpoint accuracy. It's amazing, isn't it?
That is incredible.
Yeah, when I read that, it really did make me smile. It's going to go around the sun twice before it comes back to Earth. I just love that. Anyway, and finally, there is a launch supposed to be happening tonight after we finish recording this, but I'm a little bit confused by this, and it didn't make much sense to me. So I'm going to read what I've figured out is happening, but it's a bit beyond me, right, this one, right? So it's also a rocket I've not heard of before. So this is a 4-stage Black Brant 12 rocket, which will be launching from is it Wallops?
Yeah, it's Wallops Island Flight Facility.
Yeah,
Wallops
in Virginia. And is part of a mission called the Kinetic Scout Energy and Momentum Transport Experiment, or KinetX. Right. So it's called a sound rocket, I think. It's like
a sounding rocket.
Sounding rocket.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about what they are. Anyway, it's going to, and I need to learn about this because I've seen it before, but I still don't know. Anyway, it's going to release a vapor into the sky, creating 2 green-violet clouds, which may be visible for about 30 seconds to the east of the United States if the weather is clear. It's being released between 217 and 249 miles above the Atlantic Ocean, which is crazy numbers. Anyway, apparently this is to explore energy transport in space and to see how energy and momentum is transported between regions of space that are magnetically connected. Right. Are you still with me? Because I'm not with me.
That sounds cool.
I've read the statement, but this science, it just goes way over my head. I'll, of course, post the details, along with videos from this, if it goes, and other launches and other related articles or links mentioned in this podcast, and it's all going to be in the show notes. Just check your podcast provider or just go to our website, which is spaceandthingspodcast.com.
Charlie, it might sound corny, but the view is really out of this world. Roger. We had a couple of comments in the back row that I won't repeat.
So that's it for this week. Thank you again for joining us. If I've done my job properly, then we have a new pin on sale on our website. Yes, Space and Pins, the new design. Please go and check it out if you would be so kind. If you're one of the first 40 Patreon subscribers, then you'll receive a special Founders pin, which is slightly different to the one that we put on sale. So we currently have 25 patrons, so there are still 15 of these left up for grabs. So why not go and check out our Patreon page as well and enjoy the bonus content and extra things that you can get on there while also supporting us.
Yes, and all of your support really means a lot. If you don't or can't sign up to our Patreon or buy a pin, we still do value you a lot. And please consider hitting that share button if you enjoy what you're hearing. Thank you again to Czarina for joining us. And please do check out Girls Taking Up Space and help them out if you can. We'll be back next week with more Space and Things. But don't forget, in space, no one can hear you me.
Space and Things has been brought to you by And Things Productions.